evening to you too. Just wait and see who else comes in. It's always hard to say how many people are actually going to come in at any one stage. There were 51 definites and 30 plus more than that, but it never quite hits that anymore. It hits more around the 50 mark. So we'll see where we go. We've got 42 in so far. Hi, Liv. And a few people come and go as the evening goes on as well. Please leave your microphones on off, mute. Otherwise, the background noise is a nightmare. Please try not to turn them on. If you've got anything to say, write it down the side. I try very hard to read out what anyone else is saying. I get there 9 times out of 10. Hello, Slave Gay. G-A-I? G-A-I? Is that gay? Slave Gay? I want to get the pronunciation right. Unless it's Gail with the S missing, with the L missing. Fuck, what am I talking about? I'll shut up. So hello, Slave Gay. Hi, Luke. Nice to see you. Good evening, everybody, says Nemoria. Really nice. So there's lots of people that are regulars and there are lots of people that are new every single week, which I find really interesting. And some people become regulars. Hi, Faye, good evening. And some people know the rules and some people don't. So I'm just going to go through them. I'm really happy for you to type whatever you want down the side. As I said, I'll read it out. Hi, Opal Fruit. You can leave your video on. You can turn your video off. You can just have audio on, so you're just listening. There is no, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You don't have to show yourself. That's not what this is about. This isn't a therapy space, but it is a therapeutic space, which means nothing sexual, no comments on people's looks, nothing personal. Let's keep it on the topic. If you see someone you would really, really, really like to, good evening, Cosmic and streaming live, thank you. If you really want to say something to somebody, as in, hey, you're really cool, I'd like to sort of like talk to you on FetLife, or can I follow you? Then they've got a choice as to whether they respond to that down the side. So no private messages, nothing at all. So if anyone gets anything like that, please let me know. And I say this every single time. I'm sure you have a beautiful cunt, tits, ass, whatever. I don't want to see what you have for breakfast. I don't want to see whether you need a wash. I'm just not interested. Emily and Poppy look nicely snuggled up. So we've got some snuggle bunnies. Goose is talking. I'm sorry, she's taking over. That's as loud as her bark gets. She's really dangerous. It's really funny when people hear Luna bark here, she's like, woof, and of course, is that Goose? No, of course it's not. She's a tiny little thing. How can it be? So hi, Reverend Tooley, and hi, Louise and Jerry, Emily and Poppy. You said that about Emily and Poppy. Oh, that's nice. It's nice to be snuggled up. I've got a massive poncho thing that I had crocheted for me the other day for when it gets really cold in here, and I'm sitting here like this. Right, so we've got 3 topics today, so don't comment on anybody in any way, shape or form. Exactly, Gareth, just disappear under a hood. So please be careful about what you say and how you say it. Please think about the THINK acronym. Please think about being kind, considerate. Is it helpful and is it truthful? A lot of people have opinions, that's okay. LNB says, I'm so glad I got a chance to join this evening. I'm really glad you did too. It's very cool. I'm glad too. Right, so we're talking about 3 different things. I've got my trusty can of Coke. We're talking about how you open up monogamy in a long-term monogamous relationship. I'm cooking, so thanks for the mention. You're welcome, Louise. How to open up a monogamous relationship into poly. We're going to start with that. Then we're talking about what happens if you've lost your kink? What can you do? I'm probably going to put sex drive in there as well, or libido to a certain extent, because it can be very related or not. So we'll have a little look at that. And then we're going to talk about being primal. What does it mean? How do people do it? What does it mean, really? Because there are a lot of misconceptions around primal. A lot of people just go, oh, you mean I'm animalistic? Nah, actually, no. Some people do, but not everybody. Again, it's about understanding words that really matters. The THINK acronym. It's on everything I write and everything I do. You fucking read stuff I do then, don't you, you bastard? Like, you know. So I've got the THINK acronym as a picture. I've got it as a saver, and I also use it for every piece of writing that I do. So the THINK acronym, if you want to have a look, is what the first one is it true? So it's a set of words, so it's an acronym, clearly. So the first one is it true? And I would also say factual with that. So is that true? Could you prove that in some way, shape or form? The H stands for, is it helpful? How does that help? So I have the THINK acronym. If you want to make a comment, you can debate with me. You can tell me, hey, I think you're wrong, and you can have a debate with me. You can't say you've got a dried up old cunt and I think you're a ton of shit. You will be blocked. Somebody said to me today, oh, you're not allowed to debate. Yes, I am. I welcome debate. Talk to me. However, let's debate respectfully. So is it true? Is it truthful? Is it factual? Can you prove it? Is that true? Or are you saying it's true for you? At least be clear about that. Is it helpful in any way, shape, or form to the conversation? Can it help the other person? Does it help you? What's helpful about what you're saying? Is it important? Like, if it's just you showing the size of your cunt or knob or in any way, shape, or form, just don't do it, because you just don't need to. That makes it about you, about your celebrity, or about anything else you want to do. Who cares? Is it necessary? Do you really have to say that? Or are you just getting a point across because you're trying to be horrible in some way, shape, or form? So is it necessary? And the last one is it kind? Let's be kind. Let's be nice to each other. Let's be pleasant. I'm a big believer that I want to debate with you, but I'm not going to debate with you rudely. I'm not going to call you a piece of shit. I want a conversation with you. So that matters too. So that's what the THINK acronym is. And Holly says, super excited for the Primal section now. Oh, interesting. Right, so let's talk about opening up a long-term monogamous relationship. Anyone here poly? Anyone here monogamous? Anyone done this? Like, what's it like for you? How have you done it? Let's talk about this. And I'll talk about my bits, and then you can add, and you say, and I'll read out what you say too. If I'm going to say anything to anybody, first of all, what I'm going to say is fucking go slow. Number one, go slow. Never do something too much. Always do something too little, because it's really hard to change. Fucking hell, you'll regret it. I trust you. Trust me, you'll regret things if you go too fast and you go into it. Oh, this is so exciting. We're opening up our relationship. So go slow. Can I also say one of the most important things which people do not talk about enough is coercion. Often what people will do is they want to open up the relationship, so they coerce a partner to do it. And a partner will do it because they don't want to lose the person that they're with. They feel really strongly about it, and they really love that person. So another thing I'm going to say is really watch the coercion. It'll be good for us. How do you know that? It'll be good for me. I would really like it. So use I words all the time. Don't use us, don't use we. A few people are saying, so Zoe's gone with poly. Look, poly doesn't work for everybody. Can we please stop saying as well, seriously, I mean this, poly isn't bad, poly isn't good. Monogamy isn't bad, monogamy isn't good. It's all about them, they're people that are in it. It's all about how we do it and what we mean by it. So that's one of the first things I want to say is fucking research polyamory and monogamy and work out who you are. Work out what you think you'd be okay with. Start to do a bit of research about what it means, what it looks like. No research will prepare you for doing it. If you have this list of rules when you go into a club or like a Killing Kittens venue, if it's a swingers venue or something, and you go, oh, thank fuck for that, I've got my rules. I guarantee you the first person you come across will say something and you go, that's not in the rules, I don't know what to do now. Oh, fuck shit, piss bollocks. It's always like that. And then I'll be going, oh, no, but I need to ask them, but they're doing something. It's really sorry about this. It won't be in your rules. You need guidelines. You need guidelines about respect and different things. So go slow. Paris says, there's a Bauhaus song called Small Talk Stinks, which always comes in mind with the THINK acronym. There's a line, there's no idle gossip in Braille. I like that. I've never heard of that one before. I've just learned something. Thrall says, always ethical poly since being a kid. 16 to 18 and above, I hope. So I think ethical really comes into it, and ethical non-monogamy is a new term that people now use. It has not always so. Anyway, that's been a long story, ethical non-monogamy coming along. Steel Bowie says possibly poly. Strawberry Moon says been monogamous for 4 years, but me and hubby want to explore poly. Great, so this could really be helpful. I'm not saying great, you want to do poly, you've got to be ready for it. Nemoria, I've always been poly. My wife was mono and wanted to open a relationship. I let her set the pace and we talked and talked. Yeah, until it's really boring. Talk again, talk again. You think you've talked? Talk again. Oh, you think you've talked? Have a discussion instead. Oh, you think you've discussed? Have a conversation. It's never enough. It's forever ongoing. Dominant Ivory, been poly in my heart since I was about 14, but had 2 bouts of unsuccessful opening up relationships before I finally found a working poly setup. Learned more every time, as we do. Master Jim says, I'm monogamous with all my girls. That's interesting, because you're not, and you are, and I take that as a joke, and I take that as really serious, because it's a closed poly, isn't it? It's a closed system, but you're monogamous with all your girls. I really like that. Anyway, so go slow. Make sure the other person is actually interested and talk. Fawn says, I'm poly and my last relationship had sneaky hierarchy, which was horrible. They claimed they weren't hierarchical because they didn't mean to be, intention and impact. Look, I've done poly as a couple and having someone else there. I think what we have to go with straight away is my intention is to be non-hierarchical, but by default I am, because I'm living with and I'm there. As soon as you admit that, you've got a different starting point. Then you've got to look at, what does it mean to be hierarchical? How can you be inclusive? How can you say, no, it's really important that no one has a veto, that no one does this and that? So there are lots of things that happen around that. But let's start with the basics. Discussing what poly means to you. Does it, because poly and monogamy can mean a lot of things. Does it mean a friendship? Does it mean a love? Does it mean sex? What sort of sex does it mean? Does it mean safe sex? Does it mean just sex? Does it mean going out with someone? A lot of people, and I would also recommend this, come and see someone like me or Caris or Poppy, that you come and see to say, I'm thinking of opening up our relationship. Can we go through all the pitfalls with you? Can we have some conversations? And then maybe book 6 sessions. And like, for example, one of the things I bring up that people very rarely think of is finances. Well, what's that got to do with it? You live on a budget. Everybody has a set amount of money. Well, not everybody. Some of us are multimillionaires and I'm very happy for you, but you still might have a budget. Most people have a budget of some kind. When you then turn around and say, but I'm going to take that person to the cinema and I'm going to go to Everyman because that's where I want to go. I'm sorry, that's where my membership is. So I'm fucking going to Everyman and I want the pizza and I want the garlic bread and I want the ice cream. So I've got to get that for 2 people. And all of a sudden that's now 30 quid a week, 40 quid a week. We don't think that poly costs. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So even economics and finances need to come into it. You also need to do a good timetable. Have you looked at what time you genuinely have? Most people in the US and in the UK, when you look at time management and everything else as well, we have the equivalent to minus half an hour every week, if you believe everything you read. Minus half an hour. So how the fuck can you fit someone else in? Especially if you've got kids. And what a lot of people do when they look at poly is they also forget to carry themselves in there. I want time to myself. I want to just do this for me. Well, that needs to go in there as well. We've got children. Do the children have a veto over everything? And do you know what? If the answer is there's a hospital visit, yeah, it might do. Then how are you going to feel about that? And what does that mean? Or will one person carry it? What will they do? All this stuff needs talking about. And Moria said our marriage did break up, but poly wasn't one of the issues. And Cara says, thank goodness for Google Calendars. Yeah, they are. Calendars can really help. Joint calendars, different things in any way, shape or form are really important. And if you don't want something in there, fucking remember to block it out. Because that's the mistake I keep making with my work calendar. When people want to book me, I go, oh, I haven't got lunch that week. Forgot that. So you need to block out shit as well and make sure you are careful. It's really, really important. So a lot of people don't see poly as real relationships. Oh, you can't handle it. You can't commit. You can't do anything. Do you know what? For some people, that's true. And for some people, it isn't. Some people are commitment phobics and use poly as an excuse not to commit. I'm sorry, that's not poly. I also think you have to watch. I was saying to somebody earlier, actually, when you look at what these things mean and the structure and how we make them work, a lot of people call something a more ethical name, like ethical non-monogamy or polyamory, because really what they want to do is fuck around. But if they say to you, hi, I'm really interested in you. Oh, what are you looking for? A quick fuck around. You're probably going to say, oh, no, that's not me. Thank you very much. But if you say, I'm really into ethical non-monogamy, they're going to go, oh, my God, that's so interesting. Let's talk about it. So we use bullshit. We use some of the terms that are out there. And so we have to work through the fucking bullshit and see what somebody is actually saying and what they mean. It's more of a commitment. I'm committed to all my poly partners. For some, so and not for others. For some, poly might be polysexual, poly might be polyam, it might be love, it might be sex, it might be time. I mean, I think what people think is polyamorous people are just having sex all the time and play with all these people. They're not. You're just sitting down watching a film. But you could have really fucked the other one off, because what you've done is you've watched the whole of bloody Squid games or whatever, and you promise you do it with that person, then, or you've seen the whole of that, so you might lie to that person because you're like, I haven't seen any of it. Of course, I promised I'd watch it with you. Now you're fucked. It includes all of this sort of stuff. It includes those conversations. It's not just about sex and drugs and rock and roll. It really isn't. I do think queer people, queer umbrella, have more of a mind to look at, okay, so when we're looking at non-exclusive, non-traditional roles, we're more open-minded to those than your typical heterosexual brought up, that's the way it is. So there can be more open-mindedness around that. People are more open. However, 6% of the world are queer, 4% of the world are polyamorous at the moment. That's those people that admit to it. Nemoria says, I'm far more like to be cuddling than fucking. It's often a better orgasm, I've got to be honest. Fawn says, I remember a guy on OkCupid getting confused about me being polyamorous and asexual, so called me a whore to feel better. Wow, I bet you were really attracted to him. What an intelligent chap that was. Look, people like to attack anything they're not sure about. And opening up a very established monogamous relationship is hard because you have exclusivity. You have a call on somebody. You have a structure and a tradition, and you have commitments that you're both aware of and how it goes. Nemoria says, I did watch last season of Game of Thrones with two of my partners. My wife watched it elsewhere. Well, that would break up any marriage. But that's what I mean. Things like that can feel very important to people. You know, it really can. So we've got to be careful. So how do you become okay with the principle of non-monogamy? What most people are frightened of is losing someone. So it's really hard to open up. Please be careful that your partner really wants it and isn't just fawning or pleasing you or saying it. You know, it's difficult because a lot of us will say, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go for that then. Anything to save our marriage, anything to save our relationship. That is a red flag. Oh, yes, I'll do that. No, that's a red flag. The person's doing something to please you. They don't want it. You've got to want polyamory. You've got to be polyamorous. There is interesting research that says people are more or not likely to be monogamous or polyamorous. Came out a couple of weeks ago. I'll have to find it. Because it's how we're brought up, but it could also be something that, you know, we're more open-minded in our brains as well. Domina said, I'm so sorry you had to go through watching that twice. It depends. If Aquaman was in it, I'm there. I'm sorry if it's the first season I'm in. She was invited to join us. Was that a red limit? Was it ethically non-viable at that moment? I'm sorry, red, I'm calling red. So it is hard to open something up. Look, loads of people have opened this up. You can do it. Do your research, find out what you want to know, find out what it means to you. Zoe says, I've noticed a lot of people are married, open up their marriage because they're miserable, doing it for the wrong reasons. Absolutely. I want to meet two happy people, not two people that are trying to fix their relationship, fix the imbalance in their sex life or anything else, or 3 people or 4 people. And it could be solo poly. There's lots and lots of forms of poly. That's not what today's about. We've done that before. She had other commitments, spent time with her girlfriend. And Fawn says, that's why I'm scared to join an established couple as a third. I don't want to be the band-aid. Yes, however, I've often opened up relationships and had a third, and they definitely weren't a band-aid. And we had lots of communication. They lived with us for a long time and all sorts of stuff. And we were 3, and we were 2 2s, and we were 1 1 1. Like, we were all of those things at different times for years, and it can work really well. It can work brilliantly. You've just got to make sure you communicate and find out what it is that you want. Luke says, I definitely agree. Make sure you want to explore it. The excuse they're making us better is a definite red flag. Yeah, they don't. Look, it's like having a baby or a puppy. It just adds stress. Don't do it. It's just not going to make things better. Puppy Nick says, a previous partner of mine pushed polyamory on me until I agreed. Had they actually educated me on what it was, I wouldn't have been a lot more open to the idea. They weren't attempting to help me understand what it was. And you know, even more importantly, Puppy Nick, it's not their understanding. You've also got to do your understanding. Do your own research. Don't just listen to what someone says. Poly is this, poly is that. Sex is this, play is this. No, it's not. It's not. What do you want it to be? That's the first question. Investigate for you, and then say to the other person, what do you mean by it? What are you looking for here? And we need long conversations about that sort of shit. We really do. And Zoe says, you don't need to be a third to be a band-aid. No, you don't. That's very true. So for some people, it's just about the unicorn, the threesome. There's nothing wrong with looking for a unicorn or a threesome. Nothing at all. Let's not have a go at people that are looking for a unicorn. Let's have a go at the way they're looking for a unicorn. Let's have a go at the way they think about it. Let's have a look at the way they see the person as a commodity. The principle of wanting a threesome, everything else, there's nothing wrong with that. But it could be that people are looking for other couples. It could be that they're looking for singles for one and singles for one, or couples for one or couples for one. You've got to find out, what does it mean to you to start looking at that. When you try to say there are no restrictions, fuck me, be realistic. Of course you're going to have restrictions of some kind. It might be that one of the partners is going on a business trip and they're going to take the other girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, depending on their sexuality and their identity from a gender perspective, and that could really fuck things up because nobody knew. Or who are you going to take to Christmas, or who are you going to take to the barbecue? How open are you is also something you need to think about, and what that means, especially if you live with kids. A dog is quite telling. If you've got an anxious dog and you've got someone who's around all the time but no one else knows about them, when the family are around and that dog doesn't react to that person, that's quite a hint, isn't it? You've got to think about really stupid little things. Honestly, you really do. Look, you can also do stuff without telling anyone everything. You can have a more open relationship. You can have a sexual relationship. You can say, I want to hear this, or I don't want to know anything. You can have a relationship with a person on the other side that's just friendly. They are a metamor. You can have a very good relationship with a metamor. You can have no relationship with a metamor. You can have a very destructive relationship with a metamor, where it goes horribly wrong because they're not really into it. They don't want it. Therefore, they go all out to control and destroy. We often then blame the metamor for being the problem. They're not. They're causing a problem, but the person in the middle is allowing it to happen and perpetuating it and making it worse. So there is a responsibility. You don't need to be there, so be honest about it, Zoe, I agree. And Strawberry Moon says it's odd because in some ways hubby and I have become closer since talking, making tentative moves into poly. It hasn't been easy, but we are far more open and honest with each other nowadays. See, the move into poly isn't what's made your relationship better there. The fact that you are talking, the fact that you are having different discussions, the fact that you are connecting again, that's what's making your relationship better. And we can do that with or without poly. And with poly can be fucking beautiful and marvelous, and it can be really destructive. That's what therapy is about when you come to see a therapist. It's about recommunicating. It's about getting back together. And Zoe, that was absolutely aimed at you. That's why it sounded familiar. Just so you know. I know some people in here very well, and I'll pick up on their stories fairly often. Dirty. How do you explain to somebody who says they don't understand poly? I've tried but doesn't get it, but is happy. Can you be in a poly relationship, don't understand it, but are happy with the relationship? Yeah, of course you can. Look, you don't have to understand everything to make it work. If your coffee machine makes you a perfect cup of coffee, it doesn't mean you know how fuck it does it. You know that water goes in one end and coffee comes out the other. You don't need to know all about it. You just know you've got a lovely cup of coffee. If someone is okay without knowing and not knowing too much, then that's fine too. Don't push an agenda on somebody else. We don't have to understand it. And if somebody is happy not understanding, then let them not understand. If they're not happy not understanding, ask them to do some research. Ask them to ask you about what it means, but don't push an agenda on someone else. Well, it's a simple one, isn't it? You don't need to push it. Just as I say, Domina drinks her drink. There you go. I had this coffee now. Is it? It probably isn't. For me, it would be a hot chocolate or a can of Coke. That's what I have every time. So it's really, does anyone actually understand love? No. Actually, no, that's not true. Quite a lot. Tea. All right, tea is the same thing. It's quite clever. Who invented a tea bag? I don't know, but it works. I don't give a shit. And that's similar, isn't it? Similar fucking principle. I don't know, but it works. Nobody understands love fully. We can look into the science of it. In fact, I would say I understand quite a lot of it. But when it happens to me, I get completely lost. Like, what the fuck is going on? So again, it's the same principle. So you need to decide, where are you in the absolutely monogamous into maybe non-monogamy? What does that look like? Or even ethical non-monogamy? Does that mean poly? And does that mean many? And does that mean open? And what does that mean? Look at all these words and sit down. And when you've decided what's okay and what you want, meet your partner and have a really serious discussion about what those two things look like and how you can make them meet up in the middle to make sure that you've got an okay relationship. Read. There are some really good books around. There are some really good websites around. Polyland, Page Turner, that you've got things like, and there are books that go out style and out of fashion, from things like The Ethical Slut and all sorts. You've got to be very, very careful. Design a Relationship is quite a good one. Oh God. Design a Relationship. It's got a bigger title than that. It's by Michaels and Johnson. So you can have a look at that as well. There are quite a few people that do a lot of research into this. Talk to people. You'll be surprised how many people are actually developing patterns into non-monogamy more than you think if you start talking about it. Oh my God, we've done that or whatever. Honestly, go and see someone like me. Don't book a session with me, I don't have any, but go and see a session with somebody else. Go and talk to someone about these things. Sit down with a professional who knows what they're talking about, especially on this, to have those conversations. Do I know any polyam books about disability, mental health, or intersectionality? Trying to educate folks is hard. Gosh, that's really hard. I really understand that, for, and it is. I would say to you, fucking write one, right? Because that would be amazing. I would love to see that. I would go to Polyland, and I would also look on FetLife. I have never heard of a book that covers disability, mental health, poly, and intersectionality. I haven't. Someone else might have here. If you know one, you might find lots of different books. Oh, thank you, Nemoria. You might find lots of different books that give you something towards that. Enough? Probably not. Not that cover it all. If you're starting to look into it, when you start to look at things like that, for, and I often say to people, write a guide, because you're doing all of that research and putting it together. I would love to read that if you put together, not a book, even a writing. Do you know what I mean? This is my experience. This is what I've learned. Go to this website, have a look at this, do this. And see a therapist maybe about these sort of things. When you want to educate someone, let them do the educating for you, but not from your perspective, because your voice matters. Your voice in this matters, not everybody else's. What do you want to say? What is it to you? And that for me has nothing to do, I think culture has a lot to do with it and has an influence. There are cultures that accept polyamory very different to other cultures. There really are. That comes into it a lot, but it's all about you. Al says, I've had a situation where a conversation that should have happened with me happened with a metaphor, and then I got pushed out. Yeah, too many people have a conversation with one, think they've had it with two, think they've had it with three, but they don't. They have the conversation and give the other person the results. You need to learn to have conversations together, not two and then information. So if you can see someone, that can really help as well. You need to really sit down and thrash it out before you do anything. But that said, you can't then go into, great, we're now going to go to party and we're going to swing and have all the rules sorted out. What you've got to commit to is we're going to suck it and see, literally and metaphorically, probably. We're going to suck it and see. And let's say you go to a swingers party. I'm talking about one situation here. But as I said, you cannot be prepped for everything. You're going to have to look at what happens. If one of the partners says no and vetoes it, you are going to have to make a very brutal, hideous, nasty decision. What matters more, my relationship with this person or the fact that I want to be polyamorous? You are going to have to make a decision about that. Some people do not want non-monogamy in any way, shape, or form. And then you have to make decisions between what is and what could be. And that's really hard for a lot of people. However, your relationship isn't going to work if whatever that means. I don't think relationships have to be a lot of work if you don't. I think work is involved in relationships. I think that's really important. I think relationships can be hard work, but if you come from a point of denying who you are and what you are, they won't work anyway. That's really hard work. That will inevitably break up. There is no way that it'll do anything else. So, you've just got to make very tiny, small steps and decisions and go slow. Please, please, please go slow. And it will fuck up. What you need to have is a plan of when it goes wrong, what will we do? When one of us makes a mistake, what will we do? If the other person we're with starts to give us feedback and we're not getting it right, what will we do? What's the power? What's the veto system here? What does it look like? They're really important things to decide. I'm a little against vetoes. I think if you have a partner who has a partner and they've got together and they've been together for like 5 months and you all of a sudden turn around and say, actually, I don't like them. I mean, I don't think you've got a right to do that to an existing relationship or a newish relationship. I think you need to have this conversation up front about, my veto is if they try and destroy our relationship, that's my veto. Like if they're going to be toxic about our relationship, that's about it. I would like some things to be really important. So what I would like to do is sit down as a 3 or a 4 or a 5 and say, these are the things that are important. Birthdays, I would like that one with that. I'd like this sorted out. This is what I would like. I'm putting it out on the table. You put what you like too, and then let's talk about it. But to veto something, say, I'm really struggling with this, you need to come home now. You're on a date, that person got ready. That person probably shaved their fucking legs for you or didn't. Don't make that for nothing. Do you know what a pain that is? When I shave my cunt, I'm probably going to use it because I can't stand the fact that it's going to be prickly and a pain in the arse afterwards. And yes, I should have lasers. I put a lot of effort into that. I never shave my legs. Well, maybe you should. Maybe what we need to do is we get Karis to wax your legs next time. We could do that to raise some money at Lamb for some really good charity. Or we can wax or whatever, but it all grows back and it's a pain. There's a lot of fucking effort in that shit. You can't veto the fact that I'm now not going to end up with anything. All those ingrowing hairs are for nothing. Exactly. Who wants that? Zoe said that's what my ex-meta did. So I was trying to break them up. Yet all I was doing was being a good partner and making my partner breakfast. That meant I was outdoing her. The problem is you probably were. You know, I'm sorry, but very old partners often don't do the things that new partners do anymore, because that's where we go. Oh, Namori, you keep telling us it doesn't hurt at all. Who's a masochist, you know? I'm kidding. I'm being very facetious about gender stereotypes here. It is facetious. I shaved my legs for you tonight. Thanks, Scott. Oh dear, that's funny. That makes me laugh. So we've got to think about, hey, vetoes and different things. What is okay and what isn't. You have to learn to live with discomfort. You will feel some jealousy. Guess what? That's a you problem. You need to deal with it, and then you need to share it and talk about it and work out what it's about. Jealousy is the fear of losing someone. That's what it's about. It isn't about anything else. It's purely about, I'm really scared I'm going to lose you. It's not really that I want you to do that or don't want you to do that with somebody else. It's, fuck, if you do that with somebody else, you hear me okay, or am I?
No, you're dropping.
Flipping in and out. My internet connection has just gone unstable. Just what I need. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But what I was saying is you can't veto somebody else. It's not fair. It's not okay. If you've got a jealousy problem, fucking you deal with it. And then the next day you deal with it as a 2 and you deal with it as a 3. Don't make the other person pay for it. It's not fair. It's not pretty. It's not nice. It's not a nice thing to do. You are going to have to make some compromises. You are going to have that situation. You are going to have to discuss things. I think it's also to say, I can't handle this right now. I'm not dealing with this very well. I'm scared. Be real. Also be real about, and this is really important, we all think when we go into ethical non-monogamy that we will both find someone and it will be okay. There are many situations where one partner finds 2 or 3 people and this one person doesn't find somebody for 6 months or a year. Now what? Well, it's all right for you. You're going out. You're having a great time. What about me? I'm not feeling so good about it. Or, shit, I feel so guilty. Fuck, I better not do that. That's not fair. Have those discussions up front. Pre-mortem. I know it's boring to say that. I know you played fucking bingo with me. Because I say the same things time and time again. But have a look at what that looks like. The potential for it to go wrong. Have those discussions. Talk about whether you've fallen in love with somebody. Talk about what that means. What are you scared of? What will that mean to your relationship? What do you need to do? Check in regularly. Set up an assessment, a meeting, a radar meeting. I don't care what you call them. It doesn't matter. Have a weekly time to sit down and say, how's this going for both of us? What does it mean to you? How are we? What does it mean to have a meeting with 3? Have a meeting with 4? Poly means different things to different people. But what we're really talking about here is 2 people opening up into more. So this is more about those 2 people, even though I do include all sorts of others when I say that. So that's important too. So have a regular assessment about it. Discuss whether you're going to have safe sex, unprotected sex, whether love is allowed, whether certain things are allowed. You've got to watch that word allowed, because when you meet someone else, if you say to them, I'm really sorry, kissing isn't allowed, you have made a decision for that third person. That's not necessarily fair. Look, if it's around something sensible like safe sex for a while until you know that everyone is protected or checked, that's really sensible. But to then turn around and say, well, no kissing or holding hands, that's a veto and a half, isn't it? That is all about insecurity and controlling other people. Watch that one, because it's not healthy. Boundaries, but be realistic, because I'm really sorry. If you make the rules so difficult, your partner will probably end up breaking those rules, because it's just by default. So be really careful about the sort of rules you have and the sort of rules that you set up. Please be careful. It could be that you say you can never wake up with somebody. Is that fair? Again, you're making a rule for somebody else. Fawn says, talking about the concept of cheating is important. For me, sex isn't cheating, but lying is. Everyone has their own rules, but we might think our rules are just obvious, which is why we have to customize them, talk about them, write them out. And then when we meet someone, we have to say, listen, we do have a set of rules. We're not sure how that fits with yours. Please, can we have another discussion and put them together? That's the best way to do it, rather than saying, no, we don't do that. You can never do that. I've said before, as an example, there was a brilliant writing on FetLife quite a while ago when the person turned around and said, I wasn't jealous about my partner and my husband, because they were three, having sex. I was really upset when I walked into the house and they were using our anniversary wine glasses. That upsets people more, you know, that intimacy. Or it could be that somebody has something from their culture, from their life, from their history, from anything that really means something. No, not on that. Not with that, not through that. Discuss what's important. And it's nothing. The rule is nothing is ever obvious. You've got to customize it. You've got to talk about it. You've got to work it out. And then if you make those rules and boundaries, you've also got to respect that when you meet somebody else, they might not agree to them. Don't give them as package always. You have to be open and flexible. Otherwise, you are narrowing down all of those things. One thing you must remember is I guarantee you will make mistakes. When you make mistakes, what you've got to agree is that not that it's a fuck up or that you're leaving, is that it's something that needs talking about. It's something that needs learning from. And if they do it 3 times, it's more than a fuck up. They don't give a shit, do they? If you say we're not going to have unprotected sex and they sleep with 3 different people unprotected, I don't give a shit about you. Bye, strawberry. Take care. See you later. So it's really important. You will make mistakes. And talk about it. Don't forget, talk about how do we deal with this with every, there was a guy, I can't remember his name, Alexander Cheeves, I think his name was, he talked about the 5 Fs that we have to talk about. And we have to talk about, he mentions finances, I do too, I think it's really, really important. Fucking was one of them, so talk about how that's going. What does it mean about friendship and intimacy and everything else that we have? I can't remember them all. He talks about feelings. I can't remember what the 5th one is, sorry. But it might be family, actually. It might be family. All these things need talking about. What does it mean? Our feelings for others. If you start seeing someone for a long time, you probably end up having feelings for them in some way, shape, or form. How many friends with benefits have turned out to be something more serious or drifted into nothing? It's normally one or the other, isn't it? Makes a difference. Be as honest and as direct as you can, please, because if you sweet faff around this, well, I'm potentially sort of okay. I'll change the setup there. Muting everybody. Sorry, whoever's got the dog barking. So honestly, be really careful about honesty. You have to be able to have those conversations. If you don't, then there's going to be a problem in your relationship because you just need to be direct, even over the most difficult things. I'm really sorry, that makes me uncomfortable. There you go, you said it, it's sorted. And then that's the beginning of a discussion. If you don't say it and the other person doesn't do it, why can you have a go? You've got to be honest about these things. They really make a difference. I think you have to look at the possibility of somebody else being incredibly serious sometimes, because that happens as well. So please do think about that. And what matters more to you? I think when you start comparing things as well, saying that you love them more, you do this with them more, you have sex with them more, you do different things. What do you need to do in your own relationship too? That really matters as well. So have those conversations. I guarantee you will feel jealous. I guarantee you will feel insecure at some point. But if you talk about that, then you're going to have a great time. That's what makes a difference. It really does. Right, so that's the first subject. Anyone got a question they want to ask about that at all that we haven't covered in some way, shape or form? Anyone got anything they say, what about this or what about that? Or anything they'd like to say that I've missed? So if you're helping someone open up their relationship, have I missed anything? If you say yes, I might chuck you out. I'm kidding. Right, so what about power exchange? Oh, actually, yeah. So we were just talking about going from mono to poly. However, if it involves BDSM in a power exchange way, in some way, shape or form, this is where things get really messy. It is not easy to have 2 or 3 dominants. I'm sorry, I admire anyone who does that when I see it on FetLife, because I think you've got to so agree. Oh God, Well, you need to wear red nail polish. Well, I want you to wear orange. Well, I want you to wear blue. Who the fuck are you supposed to listen to? Who is in charge? And you really have to think about that. So when you've got power exchange relationships, sometimes you need to define exactly what the power is with each person in different ways. It might be that you do clothing. It might be that you do just play. It might be different things. So whoever pays to have them done. That's funny, Zoe. I pay for my own so I can choose my own colours. Fawn says, how do they deal with situations where communication skills are unbalanced? Sometimes the person with better communication skills can express themselves, but their partners get resentful because they can't express themselves as well, so feel unheard. Go to a professional. If you're in that situation, the only way to deal with it is go to a therapist who will help the other person be heard and facilitate it. And once you've learned how to do that and you've learned those skills, then you can adapt them and use them. You can't make someone have good communication skills. It is a skill that we need to learn in some way, shape or form. Yes, Alexander Cheeseman, he wrote a book, I think, a little while ago, or is writing a book or something. And he talks about opening up his relationships. I think he has gay relationships. So you have to understand what a power dynamic means. I couldn't have two tops, I could have two tops. I couldn't have two masters. I could maybe have a daddy and a master and a top. Still get really messy for me. It's not something I personally can do very easily, but it's different definitions. And it really makes a difference. Louise says, it is important to understand the difference between poly and cheating, as I think poly may be used as an excuse for cheating. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, when people use ethical terms like I'm an ethical non-monogamist, where actually really what you want to do is just get your cunt filled or your dick wet or your bits sorted. Like, be honest about what you want and about what you're offering. Or as a casual dating until they find their ideal monogamous person. Oh my God, not once, millions of times. There are a lot of people who say they're poly, then all of a sudden they find one person and they are all of a sudden monogamous. I can't tell you how many clients I've got that fall into that category. Please bear in mind as well, just because you are poly, I'm going on about the subject quite a lot. Once you are poly, again, I was talking about someone about this earlier. One of the things that can break you up isn't actually that you leave someone or whatever. What actually happens is they just lose the desire to be polyamorous or kink, maybe, or kinky. And if they've lost that desire and they don't want to do it anymore, you can't make them. You can't make that happen. Zoe says, give your partner every opportunity to speak. That's something my partner struggled with his wife, because she'd shout and not give him the chance. But me and my partner can sit and talk, and can talk for an hour or two, him to say what he really needs to say, but he has the time to do so with me, just being patient. Time really matters. However, what's interesting is often if you've got a wife and 3 children, I don't know how many children they've got or if they've got any at all, it doesn't matter, but, and you're doing all the housework and everything's done, the time is the thing that's missing. But when we give time to a new polyamorous person, a new relationship, that has a lot of better quality time. It's a little bit like when you pay for sex, it becomes an unrealistic comparison. That makes a difference. And we've got to be really careful about that, because you can't compare that to something where all the shit has to get done as well. That's a very different thing. They are unfair comparisons. So we need to make time. We need to make sure that those things get sorted. That's not easy. I mentioned then about people can lose their polyamory. It's interesting, isn't it? People change. People change around polyamory. People change around kink. Why do we lose our kink? Why do we lose our libido was the next subject. Did you like that segue? Did you? I thought it was quite cool. Don't knock it. Right, so we can change. She has a child from don't take me back. She has a child from a previous relationship, and she doesn't let him talk. They end up shouting, but doesn't understand how I stay calm with him and don't shout. Pervious. That's perverted previous. That's what that is. So it's a new word. Or it's impervious or pervious. It's not that new. Don't take me back from me to my brain every day, 24/7. I agree. I get that. But the problem is, if somebody can't communicate, they can't communicate. They either want to learn or they don't. They either need to go to somebody to learn how to, or they're never going to. And then what the problem is with your situation, though, is he chooses to stay. So he needs to sort that out. You don't need to pay for that. That's one of the differences. So what if we lose our libido? What if we lose kinkiness? Look, it can really happen. You can be somebody who only gets off on the dirtiest, blackest, most awful thoughts, and have these amazing things and think, God, I could never have vanilla sex. You need to beat the shit out of me, or I need to totally top you, and I need to rip you to pieces and shred you to pieces in order for this to work. once you've been in kink for quite a few years, honestly, our sexual identity can change over the years. I'm not saying we necessarily go from one thing to another completely, but on that spectrum that we're on, it does shift and change according to life stresses, the relationships we're in, and everything else. It does make a change. People have themes sometimes in their lives in the way that they think when they've got kink, and sometimes that can shift. I don't know about you, I've been doing kink for 39 years. In that time, I can tell you now, what I started as liking, I haven't liked all the way through. Some of it has gone back to that. Some of it has changed entirely and completely. Does anyone else have the same sex they had when they were 16, 17? If you do, I probably feel sorry for you, but depends on the sex you had when you were 16 or 17 or 18. You've got to think about things change, and we can be shocked at something changing. Fawn, I really like you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm an old woman, 56. I'm a pretty old woman. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing if we don't want to be doing kink anymore. It's not a terrible thing if it's not our thing. It depends how much it upsets us. The loss of desire for kink can be very many reasons. It could be that you're highly stressed. It could be that kink used to switch you off. It could be that it's not enough anymore to help switch you off. It could be that you've been adamant that it's your sexuality and desirability, but actually that might not be true. We all change our desires, our libido at different times in life according to different relationships and different things. We need a shit ton of research about this, and it's not out there yet. Jerry says, I met a fabulous woman via OkCupid a few years ago, lives in the US. Oh, I know who you mean. So we couldn't see each other very often. By the third meeting, she was going through menopause and no longer felt submissive or sexy. Oh, I still like her very much, but yes. So medical things change things. If somebody has an accident, if somebody has some form of stroke, I do know her. If somebody has something else going wrong, if they're stressed, it changes our libido, it changes what we're into. It could be menopause, it could be hormonal, it could be so many things, because those parts of our brain that deal with hormones also deal with everything of stress and everything sexual and everything about our bodies. Hormonal responses are really important. There's not enough research into this. However, there is a lot of research into trauma. A lot of us will come into kink saying, I want to redress my trauma. I want to change the way I was. I want to change what happened to me. And maybe we've done that and seen that through, or maybe it hasn't worked and therefore we leave it. That can be a reason too sometimes. It really changes. We have to be very careful with, I don't know about you, if you've ever tried to fall pregnant, I understand that people on here haven't, but oh my God, it takes the pleasure out of sex. 3 o'clock, hurry up, quick, I'm hot, let's go. Come on, there's all those films about it, aren't they? Like the films where she's got so much fucking lube and spunk inside and she slides off the bloody motorbike or whatever it is. I can't remember that film I'm talking about, but there are so many like that. Or having to wank into a bloody bottle half the time, or a small tub, I'm really not feeling this. This is
Then when you finish and she lies there for 10 minutes with her legs up in the air.
Yeah, absolutely above her head in a half, and you're holding her ass in a half forward roll as she flips all over you. It's not sexy shit, is it? And the same can be done for kink. We can feel really boring or not like it. Actually, sometimes we just want some romance. We need to change things up sometimes, and we have to understand what's going on in our very core libido at that moment, because libido makes a big difference. Your libido might be the same, it might not be. It might change. Listen, I really like degradation. I really like humiliation, which is why I like cup queening. They degrade and humiliate me. And I understand that for cup queening, that isn't the same for everybody. Some people just purely want compersion.
You've gone, Debs. Can't hear you.
Like that. I like that. Just sometimes all we want, it might be changing things up, it might be doing something. The first thing I would say is, what about you? As soon as someone tells you that sort of stuff and has
No, you've gone completely, Debs. You've gone completely. Bye, Debs. Microwave. Without her.
Your turn to take over, Jerry. On you go. You've got, what, 40 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about, I don't know.
Let's talk about Jerry.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Sorry. Fucking hell.
Without you.
Oh, I bet you did. Did anyone wank?
Only me. And I didn't do it on camera.
Oh, that's not all right then. So sorry about that. I'm really sorry. So what I was saying, back the fuck off. Stop pressuring yourself. As soon as you put pressure on someone, they can't perform. It's the same as sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, anorgasmia, dyspareunia, vaginismus. I wrote about a load of sexual dysfunctions today on FetLife. That's what I've written about. We need to make sure that we talk about them.
No idea what we need to talk about, but
it really matters. If so, and if it does, I will be back. If there's no very easy explanation as to why you've gone off your kink, you need to be patient. If it's an obvious explanation, it might be something like there's some kind of trauma. There might be.
Could us turning our videos off help with the Debs' connection?
I've had many a conversation with Sky. I spoke to 5 different people. I'm having an argument with them about it. I'm trying to get it sorted. I might go in the other room if it carries on happening in some way, shape or form, if I can. I'm really sorry. Back off yourself. Look, if you have a really obvious reason as to why you are not kinky, that's okay. Maybe go and see someone about it. If it is because you don't know why and you're not very happy, you miss the drama of me disappearing. That's called ghosting. It's another thing. So, oh, thanks, Memoria. That's my right. I think I've written 3 writings today. 2, 3, I don't know. I've been writing a lot. You need a booster from Sky. I had the same problem. I've got a booster already. I think I need a second one or a second connection. I'm looking into it, see what I can do. No, you might have the most amazing experience, and it might then put you off because you can never live up to that experience again. There are lots of reasons why we lose our kink, and it's frustrating because we loved it. We thought it was really, really good, and we thought it was what we could do. So we've got to be very careful. Who are you going to meet? What does it mean? Is it about a new person? When we get used to people, that's another issue as well. Like we get used to people, we have the same sex that we've always had. It might not be good. So it might just be also about your libido. Your libido will vary according to your age, your hormones, what situation you're in. And there are lots of things that you can do. However, your mental health is a huge part of that. Your mental health really matters. If you have anxiety or you're stressed or you're burnt out at work, you won't be very kinky and you won't feel very sexual. You might, in fact, want more sex. You might want more play. You might want more connection. That might be a difference as well. Jerry said, if I suddenly found I wasn't kinky anymore, I might feel sad, but it might make life in general and finding a partner a lot easier. Yes, there's a real truth in that, isn't there? Not only do we want kink, but we want the vanilla to match as well. When I look for someone, Nomoya, since you got Goose, your rate of writings has slowed down and suddenly shot up again today. Sorry about that. Kerry, medication can also play a factor. Yeah, I was just about to come on to that. So our mental health will make a massive difference. Our physical health will make a difference. How well you are, how healthy you are, what you've got going on medically can have a massive difference. Then what you have to take either for your mental health or your physical health will make a difference. And those medications can vary. Like, for example, if you have chemo, for God's sake, don't do piss play for at least 3 days after each chemo because it's considered toxic. You piss over someone with that shit, well, that's scat as well, you will be in a real nasty, all right, bingo, I've mentioned it, but it's a really good example, isn't it? And most people don't know about it. Your piss is toxic when you have chemo for 2 to 3 days afterwards. Don't piss on a partner. Seriously, don't piss on a partner. If you have a very serious condition that's bloodborne, if you like, or airborne or whatever, you've got to think about what's going to happen. It's really important. So all of those things can impact what you're doing and how you feel. Natural situations, menopause, different times of life, different stresses might come into it. And then you've also got piss on your enemies. Yes, I don't know. excuse me, could you come here? I really want to piss on you. I've just had chemo. I don't know if that would work. I could try. Drink this. I don't know. I've made you a specialty. Mine would be bright red. What could it have been? Ribena. It's not the right color. But so what you've got to think about as well is, what does it mean as well if I take other drugs? So if I take recreational drugs, it's not just medications, because most drugs will have an impact on your libido. I don't care whether you take amphetamines, speed type based things. It doesn't matter if you take things, any form of benzoids, diazepam, different things. You could take ketamine, you could take coke, you could take any of those things, MDMA. All of them have some form of impact on your libido. Even smoking a spliff does. It does, whether you like it or not. And the fact, if you are smoking a spliff and you're taking a nicotine can also impact your libido and your willingness to play. Are you willing to give everything up and start from scratch and see what impacts you so you can get back into it? So we do need to look at ways that we can boost to help ourselves. So we've got to look at our medication. Sometimes we can do nothing about it. You can look at your drug use. Alcohol. I'm sorry, alcohol is a huge one. Are you losing your libido or your kinkiness or any of those sorts of reasons? Go slow is what I said. Start to think, start to play. Like, your head gets in the way all the time. If you want an orgasm and you start wanking and then you start thinking about something else and something else and something else, guess what? You can't come. It's quite normal, isn't it? Come on, has anyone ever done that? Surely you all have. Yeah, exactly. You're there going, my arm, it's fucking ridiculous. My arm's really hurting now. And now I can't, I don't always wank like this, but and you're like, I'd use the other, no, the other doesn't work. Oh God, it vibrated. No, I've lost it now. Fuck that, that's gone. Like, it's quite normal, isn't it? That's the normal shit that we all have to put up with. So with kink, it can be really similar. It's also about pressure of expectation. I must be kinky. I must like this. I must do this. Experiment a bit. Always slow down is always going to be the answer. Look at your lifestyle. What could change? Are you anxious? Are you depressed? What's happening? If you take anti-anxiety medication, look at the anti-anxiety medication you're taking. A lot of SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, will impact your capacity to orgasm or to feel sexual. So if you're going to go on some form of SSRI, fucking say to the doctor, hey, I'm a sexy cunt. Really, really important. And actually, I really like to orgasm, and sex and my libido really matters to me. Can I have the right drug accordingly, please? Poppy says, driving, just listening, COVID. Yes. So any form of, so COVID is being lumped in with things along the lines of chronically fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, all of those things, where it has a long-lasting, huge impact on you and your body. It's now coming in. It makes a real difference. Louise says, I take echinacea supplements, which have the side effect of increasing my libido, used by the Native Americans. Yes, so ginseng can as well. Ginseng can really help. It's not ginseng itself, it's the drug that goes underneath it. I can't remember the name, and or something at the moment. Read the leaflets. Yes, who does though? When you take a drug, do you actually read all the side effects? Because I'll tell you now, you wouldn't take most of them if you did. You would not drink alcohol if you read every single fucking side effect. You wouldn't drink. You've really got to think about it. Honestly, I'm really glad some of you do. It's really important. No wonder you two are connected, because you both do. That's your idea of a poly good time, isn't it? I've got to take a drug. Oh, exciting. Let's sit down and read the leaflet together. So that's where we go. Fawn, side effects, mild case of death. Yes, very mild, not too long, still fuckable for a few minutes because you're warm. Sorry, that was too strong. So we've got, yes, and that's the problem, isn't it? Do you know, anti-anxiety medication, one of the major side effects is the risk of death through suicide. It's not going to make you feel more suicidal, it just gives you the energy to be suicidal. It's very different. Cinders, I have multiple meds, so lots of fun to be had there. But that could be something to wank to. Zoe, I do get new antibiotics today and read the leaflet. If I'm ill enough, I need to know what else to look out for. Yes, it makes a big difference. France, I'm at a year sober. Congratulations. That is huge. That is fantastic. Well done. Really love that. A huge spike in my sexuality and drive for kink exploration. How awesome is that? There you go. That's so important, isn't it? However, I bet that didn't happen within the first month or two. You might have got a little bit of peak, a little bit of energy, but then actually it goes like this and it slows. But then all of a sudden, after quite a long time, you go boom, and you're like, fuck, that's really cool. Oh, yes. But it takes a fucking long time because your body gets used. So if you look at your natural hormones and the natural positives that you've got, If you keep filling it with other things, and this also includes kinks, this is something you have to think about. So if you've got a natural level of hormonal response, or even drugs and other things like dopamine or whatever it is that says, hey, this is where I am. If you take a drug that lifts you up and you start to stay around here, or you do a fucking shit ton of kink and it keeps you up here, what your body will do is say, well, you don't need this, so I'm just going to drop a bit. So then you need more, and then you drop, and then you need more, and then you drop. And what happens is, and this honestly happens around kink as well, and a lot of sex, is after a while, if you stop having it or something changes, you feel incredibly low and shitty and depressed and awful. And it's a horrible thing. And like France just said, what then actually happens is it takes a shit ton of time for you to start to get better, to get your natural juices, literally and metaphorically, flowing again. Just had a direct message where somebody said, my sub has been treated as if she was being inappropriate for telling her doctor's prescriptions were negatively impacting her libido and ability to orgasm. I would turn around and say, fuck you. I would complain to the practice manager and I would ask for a different doctor. That is absolutely archaic and not okay. Holly says, none of the doctors have ever mentioned that ever when they give me the rundown. They just talk about stomach issues and headaches. I'm sorry, really have a look. Fawn, I agree with you. A lot of doctors don't know the full side effects. The amount that a doctor has to study, or a nurse, around psychology and the impact of the different drugs is about this big, because they have to know everything. You can't know everything. Change your doctor if that's the case. If you are very stressed and you have a lot of work on and you're not feeling okay, the likelihood of you switching off well isn't good. You need to make sure you've got a good a direct message. Have you got any thoughts about post-SSRI dysfunction, like side effects persisting for years after coming off them? Right. Yes, I do. Of course I've got a fucking opinion. I've got an opinion on everything, me. Right, yes, I do. Right, so if an SSRI has an impact, for example, on something like you managing to orgasm, and let's say it's a man, and let's say he gets anorgasmia. Actually, this is very common for, I'm saying men and women because that's what the research is on. Don't shoot me for that. That is the research. So if you have a look at the impact of that psychologically, so I'm trying to have an orgasm, nearly there, I'm not quite there, I just can't seem to. The problem is that's exactly what happens with erectile dysfunction or anorgasmia. It then becomes a psychological condition. We then believe it's the drugs, but actually it's a psychological condition. So France, I'm going to use you as an example. If France was like, I'm not really into this, and what France then starts to believe is I'm not really into sex, my libido is low, it's who I am, but actually it's alcohol or it's drugs or it's different things. If you take an SSRI, we then believe it's the SSRI that stayed with us. Actually, it's not. It's now the psychology. Our head's in the way. Last time I did that, I couldn't do it. When I do that, I can't do it. I can't do that now. And then that becomes the issue. And then we repeat the pattern, and the pattern gets into our heads. Private message, changing doctor is not an option in recovery from work trauma with government program. Ugh, frustrating. I would still say to the doctor, that is completely inappropriate. Please, can we look at different things? Or I would also suggest you do your own research. This is really important. Do your own research, put a pathway together and say, these are the drugs that I want. I've enabled 2 clients to do that. And they've got very different drugs off their doctor. One that actually isn't even licensed as an it's not an SSRI, it's a different targeted drug for depression. And he has neurological functional disorder, which the doctors didn't notice, we did, got him diagnosed, got him sorted out. And actually, there's a lot of research that says there's a drug that is an anti-smoking drug that has a lot of good side effects when it comes to an antidepressant. So he's on it and he's changed it, but it's because he puts it to his doctor as a package. It's quite difficult, but I would really, really make sure. I agree, actually. I think orgasms can really help with chronic pain. They can really help with headaches and stress and different things. So they're really worth having. I think doctors do know of decrease of libido when taking tablets. They just don't see it as an issue if you wish to better yourself, or that's how an old doctor of mine was like. I don't see her now. That's a problem, isn't it? But you do have to be aware of that. It is important. I'm aware we're talking about drugs and drug interactions. So let's go back. You've really got to make sure you exercise regularly if you're struggling with losing your kink or losing your libido. I'm really sorry. The latest piece of research out of neuroscience when it comes to anxiety is one of the best cures is regular exercise, 3 times a week. There's a massive piece of neuroscientific evidence only last week. It's just come out, look it up. Honestly, fucking hell, it makes a real difference. So exercise really matters. Taking time for yourself, eating well, making sure you're looking after yourself, because if your body's trying to fight everything else, it isn't very good for us. You often need to improve some form of relationship quality if you're losing libido or if you're losing your kink or your drive in any way, shape or form. What's happening with a relationship with a person that you're with, or with yourself, or with different people? That's often a reason why kink can go. It's often the basis of the relationship that's involved in that, because it's having a massive impact on you in some way, shape or form. It's negative, it's not so good, it's not working, things like that can really make a difference as well. So we need to do nice things. A lot of people assume that people with cocks, as in cis-born men, actually probably even trans men, like all sorts of men, people assume when they meet a man or anyone who identifies as a man is, oh, you would do anything, wouldn't you? Any hole will do. A lot of people, men and women, and everyone who's on the spectrum of all of that, make massive assumptions that a cock just wants any hole. That isn't true. The research shows that actually what they want is to feel wanted, to feel desired. That's what matters. However, we don't do it that way. So desire comes into it. How does that person want to be desired? How do you want to be desired? Your kink and your libido and other things might then come up. Unless you're asexual, then they want to fix your libido. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, of course, if there's a problem, we want to fix it, don't we? Even if it isn't a problem. Jesus, any hole in the right person. Yeah, I agree with that, Maria. And I feel you on that one, Fawn. So it's really important that we have a look at the impact that relationship that we're in is having, of how we're wanted, of how we feel sexual. Don't push it. Give yourself, honestly, when I work with people who have things like anorgasmia or erectile dysfunction or vaginismus, vulvodynia, dyspareunia, all of these different things that are all sexual issues that I wrote about earlier, a lot of it is pull everything back and do a minute. Just start slow. Stroke your leg instead of scratching it. Build up to scratching slowly. Change things and always finish on a positive. So, for example, if you have erectile dysfunction and you start to masturbate and you have a small erection, go, good, that's where I just wanted to stop. That felt so lovely. I'm choosing to stop now. Same with kink, same with everything. Dial it back. Don't try and push to an orgasm all the time. If you keep pushing people all the time, whether it's kink, orgasm, sex, the pressure is on. Murky Wolf says, I fully concur, regardless of how frustrated or needful I might feel, unless I absolutely know my attention is not only tolerated but wanted, I can't function. Exactly. Let's stop believing in stereotypes about any gender in any way, shape or form. Let's ask the fucking person who we're with and let's ask ourselves. How about that? Makes a real difference. It might be, actually, if you speak to a lot of people, often people who identify as female, women, what they'll turn around and say is, but they only want sex. They don't want to spend any time with me or whatever. Well, then we need to do that as well. And that can bring kink back into a relationship as well. You'll be surprised at how just telling someone how amazing they are can lead to much better things, including sex, including different things. Focus on the small stuff. If you want to bring kink back and all of a sudden you're being into fully tied into some kind of elaborate system or something every time, it's a lot of pressure, it's too much. How can you make it so that you just bring it back and you just tie a little bit around a wrist and you stroke a face or you do something? Start small, start slow, build it up. It'll make a real difference and it can really help us. And we need to focus on that. You need to make sure you're sleeping well. Sleep is honestly at the bottom of most people's issues half the time. If you're grabbing 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, please look at your sleep hygiene. It honestly, the more sleep you have, the more your sexual desire and your kink desire will go up. They're absolutely related. If you are absolutely fucked and someone shoves a cock in your face and says, suck this bitch, honestly, you will turn around at some point and go, fucking suck it yourself. I'm too tired. I don't care how submissive I am. Like, you will, because you can't function. And that's why in long-term relationships, I don't know what they are, relationships, often what happens is people will find that they lose desire or different things because they're too stressed, they're too tired, they're not okay. So we need to make sure we get enough sleep. It really is important. There was a big study, there have been many big studies about this around sleep. Sleep is a natural healer, and it will also increase your libido. It will also increase your desire for sex. It will also increase your desire, therefore, for kink and everything else as well, if you see kink as sex and sexy. If you see kink as something else, that might change why your kink has dropped off in some way, shape or form. So we need to look at that as well. Please make sure you're eating the right things. Jesus Christ, if you're if you haven't got good circulation, if your heart isn't healthy, everything else as well, listen, you're talking to a fat old woman. If someone shoves my legs up over my head, I'm like, fuck. Oi!
Goose.
Come and say hello to everybody. Don't bark at everybody. Everyone say, hi, Goose.
Hey, Goose.
Hi, Goose. You're all waving at a fucking dog. What's wrong with you?
It's a lovely dog.
Oh, she's a pain in the ass. She's lovely. I really, really like her. Goose, speaking to you, timing was perfect. So Goose doesn't approve of legs up at the ears, no. But see, like as a fat woman, all my fat then moves up to this bit, which means I now can't breathe. I mean, not only do I prefer doggy style, at least I can fucking breathe in it, right? That's the difference. So as a fat woman, I've really got to think about that shit. I'm sorry, but I do. One leg up, round the head, works perfectly. I'm pretty fucking flexible, but both makes me go, and all of a sudden I can't breathe. And the picture of me is my tits suffocating me. So it makes a difference. So you've got to think about the things that work for you and how they do. It makes you turn off if you can't do it. Loads of people saying lovely things about Goose. Zoe says, sleeping properly can help your mental health, so you're well rested. My GP gave me tablets to help me sleep, that's helped me sort myself out a bit more. And you don't just need tablets. Look at sleep hygiene. I can do a whole session on sleep hygiene if you want one day. It's one of the best things to learn ever. It's really important. It really does matter that you are okay in and of yourself. And honestly, you need to be quite fit to have sex. I'm sorry, but you do, unless you are just lying there and you've got a wand of some kind. You've got to be quite fit. It does make a difference as well. There are herbal remedies. There are things you can do. Yeah. Actually, the reviews into ginseng are actually quite good. It's the one that's before ginseng. I can't remember the name of it. It's AD something as well. But however, most FDA's drugs, different people will not turn around and say that it's okay. And also you can try sex therapy and kink therapy to try and get it back to see what's going on. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a great read. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Liz, please do. Oh, is that for sleep hygiene as one of them? I can do that, definitely. And Domina says, love that book. Yes, please. I have noisy neighbours, so everything else I tried, no caffeine, etc. didn't help. I need to get sleep and stay asleep while she's still being a twat. Yes, they can make a difference. However, there are some things you can do nothing about. If you smoke and if you take a lot of drugs, I've already said, please stop. If you want your sex life to improve, that's what you have to do. It makes a difference. Right, let's go on to Primal. Let's talk about Primal. Right, so when you look at the word Primal, it's quite interesting, and what people think of it. Who here is into Primal play of some way, shape or form? Is anybody? Does anyone else call themselves Primal or say they love Primal? I wonder what your definition of Primal is. I have a philosophy myself, and you can read, I haven't written about it, but I don't think primal sex is animalistic. I think primal sex is honest sex. I think it's open sex. I think it's a connection to yourself, and there's a freedom in your wants and your desires. A lot of people, Louise, I think, is actually what Louise is saying. Primal is about biting, scratching, and smelling. Zoe played Shout, Shout, Let It All Out really loud to the neighbours. But Louise, that's what most people think, right? That it's about, that's what it's about. For me, I would call that animalistic type sex. And I think it comes under the umbrella of primal. But primal also, I like to punch and kick. I like to be punched and kicked. So you could say that that's primal, but it comes under the umbrella of what is natural to you, what is real to you. And for me, primal is letting go of all your inhibitions, all your shame, and all your everything about how you should be having sex. And animalistic can fall into that. That's my definition. Everybody will vary. And for me, that's what it is. Like, it might be that you end up being, I don't know, it might be that you end up howling to the fucking moon. It might be that you end up growling at somebody. It might be that you end up smelling and licking and doing all sorts of stuff. It just depends. It depends. But for me, what it is about letting go of your shame, letting go of, oh, I feel like I look like an idiot, or I should be that way, or I should be that way. That's what primal is about me. And Mr. Babadook says, for me, primal is about acting instinctively. However, if we cannot let go of our inhibitions, then we can't act that way. Louise says, I associate it with aggression in a controlled, consensual way, having seen it mentioned on FetLife. I get it. I really get it. Moria says, I share that definition, was typing, but you beat me to it. Is that to Louise? So, and I think that's what most people do. However, when we're trying to help children, there's a massive movement to you. Oh, okay. There is a massive movement. Is this the same as primal prey? Yes, same sort of principle. And Zoe and Oprah were clearly having conversations about how to fuck up Zoe's neighbour at the same time. There is a massive movement in primal play, the primal play methodology. There's a book by Susanna Miller that talks about how do we get in to children's brains, to children's minds, to help them release how they are, to define play in a different way, to have a look at what they're doing, to be playful. We are so prescriptive nowadays. We say this is how it is. Playfulness is an attitude, it's an approach, it's a way of doing things. So primal is with us. Yes, that's what I would class primal as. It's without inhibition. And then sometimes primal can involve animalistic, aggressive, prey, hunting, gathering. It can involve all of that. But on its base core level, primal is inhibitless. I don't know if there's even such a word as that. It makes a difference. And we want children to be powerful, and they can gain that and look at that through play, and they can look at that through being primal, understanding. It makes a real, honestly, there's so much research into this, that how we develop playing for our health and what it means, and how we're developing primal play. So I think that's really interesting that people are looking into that more and more. And I think it comes into this. Prey to me is predatory play. It's takedown and consensual rape. However, it might not be to somebody. It might be that somebody turns around and says, I want it to be that you just ravage me. You might rip off my clothes, but that someone might not see that as consensual rape. Rape might not come into that phrase at all, if that makes sense. So well, that's my definition, Al, to be honest, and it might be for many, I don't know. There are some writings that back me up on this as well, but that's what it means to me. It's new in its sense. A lot of people say, oh, primal, this is what it is. For me, it's about being yourself with no inhibitions. That's what primal is to me. It's slightly different to what a lot of people use it on FetLife, which is why I said I've got a slightly different take on it. Yes, it is all about being animalistic, letting yourself go. It's all about connecting with another human being. It's all about having trust. It's all about letting your inhibitions go again in order for you to do that. If you want to meow like a pussycat, or growl like a tiger, or bark like a dog, you are going to feel like a fucking idiot unless you can let go of your inhibitions. That's the whole point of what primal means to me, letting go of your inhibitions. And when we do, it can mean a lot of really good stuff for us. I think it's really good for our mental health as well. Fawn, I prefer that definition to the whole, if I'm primal, it means I'm alpha and you have to be my prey, blah. Yeah, I'm really glad you see it that way. Thank you. I appreciate that, because, you know, again, personal. This is why I think when we say to someone, you're primal, oh my God, so am I. Yeah, we could still be at opposite ends of a spectrum. We still need to have a conversation. What does that mean to you? This is what it means to me. And to me, primal means uninhibited sex, where I can be free and just say or do or act on anything I feel like doing within boundaries, of course. I'm not going to go and howl at the moon on fucking Lancing High Street, am I? And then have someone fuck me in front of Asda. That's very silly. I'll get arrested. That's not sensible. Of course, within certain boundaries that make a difference. So it's about instinctual play. It's about connecting to that instinct about what you want. And a lot of people use the word raw. Inhibitors, raw, that makes a difference. I don't mean ROAR as in rah, I mean raw as in uncooked. So that when we have sex, and actually I'm going to connect it to when we're talking about how you get your libido or how you get your kink back, we think too much. Our head gets in our own way. Oh my God, how big is my stomach in this position? Fuck, are my tits dangling nicely? They're snapping together. Is that putting them off? I don't know if that's okay. Is my cock big enough? Is it going in the right hole? What does it mean? Is my finger meeting the right bits? What am I doing here? Oh my God. My last client was just talking about, she's doing an art degree, and she was saying, but I don't know how to do art. I'm just thinking about art. And I said, fucking hell, just take a risk and throw some paint on a bit of paper and start. You need to just take the risk. Her head's getting in her own way of where she is with it and what that means. And she's getting lost because she's totally lost in should, must, ought. Primal play is letting go of that. It's letting go of the shoulds, the musts, the oughts, the coulds. It's about you being you. Look, that's not easy. You've got to be very careful about that because it can look very different to different people. It could be that you're aggressive. It could be that you pin someone down. It could be that you choke someone. It could be that you howl like a dog. It could be that you bark like a seal. It could be that you slide all over somebody with a shit ton of oil all over you because you just want all sorts of different feelings, and that's what you're going for in that moment. It doesn't even necessarily mean purely about sexual. It could just mean that I just want to go and without you going, don't do that, that's my gut. Put someone off entirely. Although, you know, it's okay to laugh. Jerry says, tell me about it. I think too much about what my body is doing. That's why I can't and don't dance. Oh, Jerry, that makes me so sad. Come and dance with me. Just dance. It's the same with playing or anything. Just, we're okay as we are. Kerry, I think that takes trust and truly knowing someone. I agree. I always get interested when two primal people meet each other for the first time. You really have to turn around and make a difference by talking about limits, consequences, what's going to happen, consent, risk aware, consensual, personal risk awareness, prick, rack, SSC. Well, it's not very sane or sensible or safe, is it? So we have to do it. And it's a real shame that we do that to ourselves, don't we? That's what we do. It's free from shame. Oh my God, that's an aspiration for most people. So we might act animalistically. And if someone does it first, we go, oh God, that's okay. And I can bark. I'm going to try that. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. I mean, like Goose is a really good example. Like when Luna barks, it's like a woof, you know, like matron, nursey, way. I'm really showing my age there. Anyone who's really young doesn't understand that, I apologize. It's a really old thing. So woof. Whereas you listen to little Goose and she goes, wow! It's like, it's pathetic, isn't it? I laugh at her effort at barking. It's not the same. However, I'm probably making her feel very paranoid and not very nice in life. She's a dog. She's not going to feel that. So you have to be aware that you're going to sound like Goose sometimes, and it might not work, and you might be embarrassed, and you might feel shame, and you might feel a bit of humiliation. Primal is about letting go of that. First of all, before you want to get primal with somebody else, dance in the room naked. Give it some dad moves. I don't care what it is. Get going. Do whatever you're doing. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. Don't care what you're doing. Start to dance. Start to get in contact with yourself. Start to, just move and flow. Get to know your body. Feel what it feels like. Get in touch with your body. Give yourself a massage in the bath. Everything. Those bits that don't fit in the right place. Jesus Christ. When I had my last child, as I was being stitched up, no, second child, sorry. The last two were born at home. As I was having my second child, oh my God, the midwife who was stitching me up, I've said this to you before, she turned around as my legs are spread very wide and she's putting me all back together because fuck me, did I get a bad tear. Her final words to the trainee midwife that was with her was, oh, I don't know where that bit was supposed to go. What am I supposed to think or feel about what my cunt looks like now? And actually, when I then sat down on those beautiful valley cushions, I felt something go, and I went, oh, I'm not even going to hospital for that. I'm not. I'm planning on having more kids. Fuck me.
Sorry, I'm laughing, lovely. Sorry, I'm laughing.
You can laugh all you like. Look, I wouldn't be telling it if I wasn't okay with people laughing at it. I wouldn't be telling if I wasn't okay with anything. Your cunt isn't the tightness of the skin outside. It's all about the Kegel exercises inside. It really is. The skin, if anything, can actually get in the way, can make things too tight. My feelings about dance also translate to fucking. They do. Can't lose the awareness of what I'm doing. So that's why we've got to practice. Lady Liv says, I used to be too self-conscious to dance and thankfully finally just said, fuck it, it feels good to dance. What do you mean scary is dancing with me? That's not fair. You haven't tried it yet. It's all about sensually getting in touch with yourself and understanding how you feel when you do stuff and you're making noises and doing different things. You have to be okay with it. Somebody just privately said, I teared sideways and upwards and it teared through my labia. Now I have a mini flap. I think I have a bit like that. I think if it dropped down anymore, people think I had some kind of giant thing poking out my fucking arsehole and think that needs piercing or sorting or whatever. I don't know. I haven't had a good look in ages. Jerry says, I'm a bass player. We stand at the back, don't move much and look cool. But do you know what? Looking cool sometimes is also letting go. It is. You need to get in contact with yourself. We need to stop worrying about what it is that we're feeling. Look, I also think you have to be very risk aware if you're going to do primal play. I'm a bassist too. I'm a singer. That was my place. Bass players have it on the finger movement. Dominic says, how does that translate to fucking, Jerry? Don't downplay it. Carrie says, bassists have big hands and long fingers, wife of a bassist. Should we talk about fisting with a bassist? Maybe we should only fist with a singer. Jerry, take lessons from Rick Allen, Davey and Lemmy. So Johnny Bravo is pretty primal. Yeah, I think these people are. She knows what she's on about. Right, so I think you've got to be careful. Please be a little bit careful. You're going to go all out into primal and you don't know someone very well. Probably have some form of safe word or some form of discussion, because that shit can go horribly wrong very quickly. It makes a difference. So it's all about connecting with your instinct, about how you feel and what you want. And I'm still always going to come back to that primal for me is about loss of inhibition, which can mean animalistic. It can mean non-verbal, it can mean verbal, it can mean biting, it can mean pinching, it can mean pinning down, it can mean taking, it can mean being prey, it can be very different. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about primal. Some people think it's my sexual orientation. It's not a sexual orientation. It's part of what you want to do or be. It's a state of being. That's what it is. I think you have to look at that. I mean, you can't bring primal into everyday existence fully, can you? If you're a nurse, you're not going to go up to somebody and go, yeah, I think you have something wrong with you. I mean, Jesus Christ, I would feel really frightened if you did that. So you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful about how you present what you do. This is about stuff that's in the bedroom or in a relationship. Also, if you want to be really primal, it might be about ripping someone's clothes off. But if you've got your best silk pajamas on that cost you 300 quid, you don't want that shit ripped up. So I don't care how primal you are. If somebody ruins your best fucking outfit, you are not going to be happy unless they offer to replace it. And that is the truth, isn't it? And no matter how primal you are. So I think we need to have really good discussions about what does that mean. I get that labels are shitty. I get that people don't like labels. I'm sorry, but they give you a starting point to have a discussion. And that's what we need to learn to have. Loads of people saying, oh, you know, I think my partner's gone fucking mental. They're having the most crazy time. Well, we can say that that's primal, can't we? We can say that it's primal sex. Can you say that that's heat of the moment, that you're doing different things, howling to the moon or whatever? What if you are a sub and you're primal? What if you like doing that animalistic, but you don't want to be taken down? What if you're the dominant and you're primal, but do you need to listen about safe words and about what your limitations are? You really have to think about it. Look, honestly, if you are primal, you are better off meeting another primal person to have that sort of sexual partnership with. Because someone who isn't going to understand and doesn't get it. Labels aren't boxes, they are signposts. I agree, Nemoria. Puppy Nick says, labels are a great starting point to a conversation, but really shouldn't be the end of one. I totally agree with you. That's what I'm saying. The thing is, what you've got to remember is if you like to hurt as a primal, you need somebody who likes to be hurt as a primal. It's no good having two primals who like to hurt, unless you're into a wrestling match or whatever. You need someone who likes the opposite of what you're into. I like to chase, I like to be taken down. Good, then we'll work. If you both like to chase, you've got a Benny Hill thing going on for fucking hours and you're knackered and nothing sexual has happened in any way, shape or form. You've got to match in some way. You've got to. It makes a difference. If you don't, how else do you do it? I don't know. I think it's difficult. You need to balance each other. The same with your kinks. It's no, like we had the discussion last week about switching. Some people want to switch immediately. Some people want to stay as one person in a session. Some people want to make a change in different ways, but you've got to agree on that. So as someone who likes to hurt by being primal, are they a sadist? I think that depends on what they call themselves. They might turn around and say, no, I am a primal and I just like to fucking rampantly take you and do terrible things to you. And I'll scratch you and I'll bite you, because what they're showing is how they're feeling through what they're doing. It's not necessarily that you're going to enjoy the pain or whatever they inflict. So I don't think sadism always comes into it. But for those of you who are primal dominants, you might disagree with me. Let me know what you think. I think it's not so much about that. I think it's more about, I want to do this, and therefore that feels good to me. It's not that they necessarily want to hurt you during the doing. Some people just want to really fucking bite, you know. You see it in babies even, don't you? Like baby when it clamps down. Look, we all know that video, Charlie bit me. I don't know if you remember that one. Charlie bit me. Because they're filming their 2 little boys, and this one little boy puts his finger in another little boy's mouth. And Charlie just goes really fucking hard. Charlie isn't a sadist. He just really wanted a bite. I mean, I don't know Charlie since he's grown up. He might be, but I doubt it. He just wanted to bite. That's what we do. I just want to. So I would argue that actually primals aren't necessarily sadists at all. It could be that you may want to wrestle for that dominance in some way, shape, or form. And that's pretty primal. Whoever wins, wins. It's got that real primitive aspect to it. But I would also argue that primitivity of that. I'm enjoying this too much. Do you know what? However, I'm not primal. I don't like being bitten. I don't particularly like being scratched. I like being used and abused, which is pretty different. I also like being punched. But I think punching needs a lot of negotiation and working out. And I think if you were to start punching someone in primal play, if you've lost who you are, you could cause an awful lot of damage. So I think you have to be very careful about what you're doing. If you think about rope, if you think about the intricacy that it takes to tie someone up to do something, if you primarily just go like that on someone's neck, you're probably going to kill them. You know, there's no 2 ways about it. You need to think about where the pressure is, or you're going to cause some awful drop, nerve issues somewhere because you're not thinking about where it's going. Primal is the loss of thought. It's the engagement with feeling, intuition, hormone, emotions. So if you think something out, you're not particularly primal. I don't know if you agree with me, if you're primal on that one or not. That's what I think. It's all about sexual energy. It's the loss of inhibition. That's what I would say that primal is. Anyone want to add anything about being primal in any way, shape or form? What do you think? How are we doing on all of that? Because we're just coming to the end. So we've discovered we've discussed 3 things. Is there anything any more outside on all of those? I had such an interesting question for next week. I wasn't sure whether the person was joking or not, but I had quite a conversation with him. So this person wrote to me and said, how do I ask these questions? They're quite young, probably quite new to all of this. And do you know what? What I really like is that they actually asked. They turned around and said, and I really mean this, so I'm about to read this, which is why I got my glasses out. So the person, I can actually see now. I feel like some weird arty person all of a sudden. Right, so weird arty. Oh, that is me. Fawn says, I think you can put some thought into primal because I feel like you can be sensitive to someone's chronic pain. Yes, I think you can do. But then some people might argue that they're not fully letting go, so isn't fully primal. People argue over that one. That's okay. I don't think it matters. I think as long as you agree on what's primal between the 2 of you, that's all that matters. As long as you have a rough idea on what's safe, you can get lost in the moment with some boundaries. Yes, you can. You just got to be a little bit careful. Right. So this person wrote to me and asked me these questions. I think you could feel quite judgmental about this person asking these questions, but I kind of want to do it next time. See, tell me what you think. This young person wrote to me and said, I'm not sure about how to ask questions or where to post them, and it's totally fine if you don't like, but I do have questions. Okay, tell me your questions. I want to know, how do I finger a clit? How do I finger a pussy? How do I get someone into rope, or how do I get into rope? How do I find a mentor? Where do I even start with BDSM? What porn should I even watch or shouldn't I? How do I bruise someone with my bare hands? If I dirty talk, how can I dirty talk? What would you give as advice around dirty talk? How do you rub someone's body the way they like it? How do you find out what your partner's into and what they enjoy? How do you teach them to give you a good blowjob? I was quite blown away by those questions. And I said, do you mean them? Are you serious? Or is that a joke? That was my first response, right? What I thought, however, when that person then went back to me and said, no, I would really like this, please, thank you. What I thought was, do you know what? They are really fundamental questions, aren't they? About how we have sex, about how we learn about something, about how we communicate, about how we even ask any of those things. And when I thought about it, I thought, fuck, so many young people are introduced to anything that we do just by pornography or just by, we just managed to go on to FetLife, but no one teaches you to say, how do you finger a clit? How do you? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Ask the person about how to ask the person. Yeah, I mean, that's my standard go-to, isn't it? But if you're 20 or 21 or 18 or 19, you don't even want to ask half the time, because the opposite to primal, all that shame is getting in the way. So I thought I would actually answer all of those questions and then have a conversation around it and see what you think. Fundamental questions and delightfully honest. Such openness deserves reward.
I think that's an entire evening on its own.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's really good. And I also think that I had someone message me on FetLife a couple of days ago. I'm a submissive. How do I find a dominant? I get so many of those. We all get so many of those. I don't want to be crass and I don't want to be silly, but there is a sensible answer to that.
Yeah. And I think that's really important what France just said. No one teaches you how to communicate those things, and Karis really agreed with you. I think that's true. So why don't we have a really awkward conversation about all those awkward questions and see where we go? And then we can ask more awkward questions in here if we want to. So for me, it's going to be a workshop about awkwardness and learning and that sort of stuff, if that's okay with all of you. I don't know what you think.
I think more interactive as well. I think more interactive. Yeah,
I want like lots of interaction in that one. And Al says if the partner is young, they might not even know how they want to be touched. I agree. Fucking hell, I'm 56 and half the time I don't know how I want to be touched. It depends on the person. Holly says I would super appreciate it, honestly. Yeah, so let's have a really, it's like at the work, I'm doing Lamb Retreat, and I've got 3 workshops in that. And one of the things I'm covering is like arousal stages. What does it mean? How do we have good sex? What does good sex mean? What does good play mean? And I'm covering the whole arousal stage, what happens in cis male bodies and cis female bodies. You've got to remember, even if you're trans, once you have had surgery, it changes things, but it doesn't change things fully. It changes some things in some ways. It really does. It doesn't change absolutely everything. So it's, again, awkward subject, awkward conversation. So, and in fact, in the sexual piece I wrote earlier about all sorts of sexual problems, one of the things I talked about was, and I gave 2 references to female-male transitioning and the impact of sex and orgasm and what we have to do as well. Inclusive, let's include everybody. Everyone matters, for fuck's sake, it's not hard. So I thought we would just go for that awkward questions as well, so that we could just ask, and then people could just ask the questions here as well. They are really good subjects, people are liking that. Okay, so let's do that. And let's get lots of newbies into workshop. Listen, I only advertise what I can advertise. If you want to advertise more, please do. I don't mind having, I've paid for extra so we can have over 100 people in the room. I mean, at the moment, we've got 51. We've had 68 is the top figure we've had in today. So it's really important. So we're going to do awkward questions, especially for new people and different things. But also, a lot of people hide behind their age and they've still got those awkward questions. So Socrates, she comes first. The Thinking Man's Guide to Pleasuring a Woman, one of the best books I've ever read on pleasing a woman first. I highly recommend also a good read is He Comes Next, The Thinking Woman's Guide to Pleasuring a Man. However, Sir Socrates, what I'm going to argue with is I don't want to come first. You need to ask me that question. I don't want to. I want you to take, I want you to abuse, I want you to use, and then I want to come. Only then. So like, isn't it interesting that we all can vary about that? So, and there are great books. There are some fantastic books and readings out there, and you're all really knowledgeable. So let's do awkward questions next week for everyone. And if you want to help advertise, please do. I don't ask for any money for these workshops. If you want to do Patreon or buy me a coffee, you can. The Lamb Retreat, I'm covering quite a few things. I'm also covering conversation, how to have really good communication skills and everything else as well. And I think there's quite a few people doing different workshops on really exciting subjects. So if you want to ask me an awkward question, think about it, chuck it in next week. Please advertise the workshop. That would be lovely. Let's get as many people coming in as we can. And I will see you all next week. Confidence. Communication is key. And teaches you how to fucking communicate. I'm sorry, when you get married, live with someone, or when you have a partner, or when you open up to poly, or even with your own fucking children, no one teaches you how to communicate. There are skills that need to be learned. You're not born.
You're cracking up, Debs, again. I'm afraid the last few minutes we're losing you.
And then can teach it. And I've been taught it and experienced it. I've been told what taught me was the over 5 star. Ironic timing for communication or lack of. My internet connection is unstable. I'm going to go. I will see you all later. See you later, guys. Take care. Bye. I did break up again. I'm sorry. That's why I'm disappearing. Love to you all. See you later. Bye.
Bye.